consultants that are doing this. They are collecting information, they are engaging stakeholders, and later on, they will still validate whatever they've come up with, and once it is agreed upon by the stakeholders, it will later on go into implementation. So it's a consultant. But it's being funded by some of our partners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then how affordable are the EPCs within? By EPCs, I mean the electric pressure cookers. How affordable are they?
Okay, that issue of affordability is actually a relative question. Many times I tell people when they say it's expensive, okay, a 6-liter one is 250 shillings.
250, 6 liters.
Yeah, a 7-liter is around 280. But I usually ask them, if you look at your phone, how many EPCs are in that phone? I can tell you some people's EPCs, phones. I know somebody in our church who has a phone of 5M. So how many EPCs are there?
I would ask you not to mention the name.
No, I don't want to mention names. Yes. But I'm saying it's about liking something and appreciating it, then you prioritize it. But if you're buying something and you're not sure whether it will help you, you're very hesitant to buy it. But when you know there is value for money, then you'll go for it. Because 250 really, there are many people who can afford it. But as long as they don't understand the benefits, they'll be very hesitant. So they are affordable, but we need more engagement for people to understand that actually an EPC can serve you and can save you costs, because you're going through the cost that you've been spending on charcoal or gas. Personally, I used to spend every month I would buy 1 cylinder. So I would be spending
6 liters.
Yeah, that is 12 kg.
12 kgs.
Yeah,
that's 100k.
100k, around 15. But right now, the amount that I spend on cooking, my entire electricity bill is about 100,000, 110, something like that. But that includes the lighting, the TV, the whatever. So
fridge.
Cooking alone, I may be spending not even more than 30k on cooking. When I used to spend around 120.
Do you picture in the size of a family? Because you talked of 6 liters and 7 liters. Are there bigger EPCs that can feed families of 20 people?
Yes, there are bigger sizes. But of course, it's just like when you want a big trouser, you'll not easily find it on the market. Yeah, because the people buying it are few.
But you see,
so even the big EPCs, you will not just find it in the market.
Okay.
There are some which are about 9 liter. Even Umeme, there are some that they are going to bring about 10 liter. So 9, 10, those are available. But if you want like 20 liter, you may have to go on Jumia and make a special order.
Special order.
Yeah.
Looking at 6 and 7 liters, do you think a family of how many people could take for
7?
A family of 7 people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It should be enough.
Okay. You talked of gas, and it was like you're running away from it. Is it anywhere comparable to the use of EPCs?
No, EPCs are much
cheaper.
Cheaper, the energy you spend. But there's what we call energy stacking. You still need gas for some of the meals.
Oh, yeah.
Because, for example, if you're boiling porridge, you're boiling milk, because you're not pressurizing it, you could still use gas. So we still need gas for some of the meals. And there are times when power is not around. So you need gas still. But it's about what is your main energy for cooking. So what we're saying is your main energy for cooking
should be power.
And the electric pressure cooker, but don't completely switch off the gas. It should be there on standby, just in case something goes wrong. And but you definitely realize that because of the technology that you are using, when you're using gas, you'll not be able to save much. Now, but I'll also say something. There are people who are using gas and they're using the old pressure cookers. I also want to tell them they can also do some saving. And I will tell you how that can happen. Normally, when you're cooking with the traditional pressure cooker, the manual one, it keeps hissing, releasing pressure. And as it releases, of course, that is releasing energy. So what we would encourage people to do is that when the hissing starts, reduce that gas to the very minimum. So that it just retains the heat and cooks, because it will be under pressure, it will be boiling under very high temperature without even hissing, without releasing. There's someone I advise like that. She said, no, for me when it hisses 5 times, I know the food is ready. So why should I reduce? But you know those 5 times it has released pressure, you have lost energy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So you'd rather look on the watch and say, when it cooks for 20 minutes, I know it's ready. So you reduce the amount of gas so that you have just the minimum. And I can assure you even that minimum, inside there it will be boiling at that high pressure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one. You're talking of having gas aside and a bit of electricity, EPCs. Someone would say maybe EPCs aside and a bit of charcoal. And a bit of charcoal so that they can complement each other. And by the way, some people prefer using maybe EPCs and gas on public holidays. They're like, okay.
Yeah, no. Some people still think charcoal is cheap.
Yeah.
And that's why they keep buying it. But I can assure you, there is no justification for using charcoal.
Oh, yeah.
Unless for certain things that you cannot use gas. I mean, you can use where you cannot use an EPC. Yeah, for special meals.
You know,
even but then you can even do kalo.
Oh, in an EPC.
Yes.
Matoke posho you can.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And don't think that you'll do any saving by doing kalo on gas. Oh no, rather on charcoal. Nothing. Yeah.
You know, going away from cooking to lighting, I would want to tell the audience that at one point in time we carried out kind of a demo, kind of a documentary, and we cut down a tree of 7 years, 7-year-old tree. And when that tree was cut down, we burnt it into charcoal, and it gave us 4 bags of charcoal. When those 4 bags of charcoal were used for a family of 6 people, that charcoal took 60 days, meaning that a tree of 7 years was only consumed in 60 days. How many trees shall we have to plant if we continue in that tree?
That is the challenge. It's not sustainable at all. Because a tree that took 7 years to grow, just consume it in 2 months.
Yes.
So how many trees are you going to grow?
Certainly.
So many.
Going to lighting, I see there has been a bit of increase in the number of solar panels in people's homes and even on the streets. Because we are blessed as a country, we have a bit of sunshine almost across, throughout the year. And then that has led to the improvement or to the increase in the number of people who are using solar energy. And then you talked of the LED bulbs that also tremendously reduce the consumption of electricity. Is there any other way you would advise us to reduce our energy in terms of lighting?
Okay, first of all, lighting. It all starts with how you build your house or how you manage your house. There are times when people build very nice houses and most of the time the curtains are on. So you have the curtains on most of the time and then you are switching on light, or you design it in such a way that you don't have enough natural light. So we would encourage that right at the design stage, provide enough natural light so that you don't have to keep on the lights most of the time.
During the demos especially.
Or if you have curtains, draw those curtains when it is night. Yeah? Don't start drawing the curtain at 5 and then switching on the lights at 5. Wait until it really requires that you can't do without the light.
The natural light.
But also when you are buying the bulbs, look at the task for which you want the bulb. For example, in the corridors, you don't need a very bright light because you're not reading when you're in the corridors. So in the corridors, you could still afford to have maybe 4-5 watts. But in the sitting room where you are sitting and you're doing some reading, a higher wattage would be required. So it's like, can we have the right wattage for the tasks that we have? You can ask someone that what is the rating of your security lamps? And the guy doesn't know.
True.
He doesn't know whether they are 10 watts, whether they are 5.
I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, but you should buy, knowing that they're going to light throughout the night. So you should think about how much wattage you should commit to lighting at night.
Oh, yes.
Somebody was even saying, after all, I'm not going to be reading from outside. It's why these which go around the perimeter wall. The perimeter water, for example, you can have it lower, like 5 watts. You don't have to put very bright ones. So it's about what you want to achieve and also getting the right wattage. But there's something else that I wanted to talk about is about other appliances. For example, we have other appliances like TV, fridges, ironing. When we are buying them, we should also ask ourselves, how much electricity do they consume? Are they efficient? Because you may go for that refrigerator when its rating is very high and it's not efficient. It might be cheaper. So the cost of the refrigerator should not be the thing that catches your attention, because in the life of that refrigerator, it's going to consume a lot of power. So you need to ask yourself, how efficient is this? And that's why most refrigerators, if you see, they always have a label. They call it an energy efficiency label. Some are star rated. So when you're buying, you ask the guy selling to you that what is the level of efficiency of all this? Explain to me. So you buy it with knowledge. Same thing with the TVs. You remember the old TVs we used to have? Those ones were consuming a lot of electricity and even producing heat. Now we have LED TVs, which are very efficient. So that is very important. The other thing maybe I could also mention about is when some of these gadgets are on standby, we should switch off from the wall.
Okay.
Don't just leave the TV on standby and you go to sleep. And then you ask, have you switched off the TV? Yes. But what actually you did, you just put it on standby. So it will still consume power even when on standby. So switch it off from
power, from the
power.
sockets.
Yeah. I could also tell you about refrigerators. Now refrigerators have rates inside there. There's a knob which from 0 to 9 to 9. So you can set it at 1, you can set it at 2, 3, 4, 5. But many times when you ask a person, at what rate, where is your refrigerator set? The guy said, hey, you mean it? There is something. There's a doctor I was talking with.
You're giving me an assignment.
And he didn't know. Then I told him, you open, I'll show you. I'll tell you. So over the phone, I asked him to check. Then he said, hey, I can see something, a knob. I said, where is it? He told me where it was. But I said, can you reduce it and give it to a minimum?
Wow.
So also you can set your refrigerator at the lowest possible based on what you're cooling. You don't have just to keep it on high.
Oh, yes.
And at times the children play with it and take it very high. They want ice, they want very cold, but too much coldness may not be what you want. So if you want to save, you go into some of those and look at how you've set your refrigerator, for instance.
Then the other thing is, should we look at solar as an alternative source of energy, lighting most especially? And how sustainable is it?
No, solar has become cheap, that it's a good source. Like if you're doing security lighting right now, you're better off with solar. Especially if you want good lighting in your farm, in your house, in your compound. You can just have a solar panel and that is, It is only that the cost you pay for umeme for lighting is also not very significant. So saying that let me convert the whole house into solar lighting, the question would be, how much are you saving? Because even with the umeme, and you're using 3 watts, 5 watts, it's little, but it definitely is a good option. That's the reason why kerosene, for instance, in the villages is no longer being consumed. People are going for solar. So instead of suffering with darkness in the village, everybody should at least go for a solar lantern or a solar system, because the costs have come very low. But it's not necessarily competing with umeme because of It's very little. It's little cost that it goes on lighting.
I'm hoping you're not creating business for meme. That's a good one.
However, for sustainability,
yes.
if you want to get rid of bills, some people are doing that. They're saying, me, I can afford my
big panel.
Let me put it there and I forget about umeme. So some loads like lighting, TV, they shift to solar because it's affordable for a number of people. Yeah.
There is something that you have to tell us, Mr. Baanabe. You have to tell us. And I believe whoever will come across this will be happy when you tell us. Many times we buy power. Sometimes you buy at the start of the month, another time you buy in the middle of the month, and sometimes they give you a certain number of units, another time a certain number of units, another time they tell us they first chopped off, I think, service fee or something like that. When should we be purchasing power so that we get that maximum?
Okay, I'll first mention a statement that whenever you buy power for the first time in the month, they take away service fee. So you note that one.
Okay.
Now, if you buy enough power that will take you 3 months, on the 4th month, when you go to buy power, you'll pay service fee for the other months where you didn't buy. Yeah. So service fee, okay, you can't dodge it.
How much is that?
I think it's about 3,500.
Okay.
If it hasn't changed. So every month there is service fee, 3,500. Now, the first 15 units you buy in a month, if you don't consume 100 units in a month, if for the last 6 months you've not consumed 100 units per month, you qualify to buy the first 15 units at 250. So after the service fees is removed, the next 15 units you'll buy at the beginning of the month will be at 250 if you have not been using 1,000 units the last 6 months.
If you've not been using 1,000 units.
100 units.
100 units in a month.
Every month.
Okay.
Like you told me your category, so you qualify. Because you don't use 100 units every month.
I don't.
So you qualify to buy the first 25 units at 200. The first 15 units at 250. You qualify.
Okay.
While for me, who uses more than 100 units every month, I don't qualify.
But I've never qualified. You're telling me I qualify, but I've never qualified.
Oh, okay. You don't feel it. You don't feel it?
Yes.
If one day try to buy only 15 okay, because when you buy very many, they mix up and you don't see the difference. But that's why at the beginning of the month, when you think you've got more units, it's just because you could be benefiting from the lifeline. You pay like a 20K, and then you find that you have maybe 25 units. Because some of them were lifeline. The next time when you go to pay, you had consumed your lifeline units for the month. Then now it shifts to 800, it's 818, something like that. Now, if you are a big consumer,
you're penalized?
No. Okay, from 15 units to the next 15 units to 80 units, you pay 800 and something per unit. So when you exceed that when you exceed 80 units, between 80 and 150 units, you now benefit from the cooking tariff, which is 400 and either 420 a month. I mean a unit. So you can only benefit from that cooking tariff if you have paid for 80 units and you have not exceeded
in a month.
Yes, and you have not exceeded 150 units.
Now, Mr. Baanabe, now that you are a consultant, you've worked with the ministry, initiated a number of projects. Now you're a consultant, and I believe you do some consultancy for the ministry. Why can't they simplify our work and give us an average so that we don't get those things of first month, a lot of explanations, just make those computations and say, now on average, this is what you get so that We don't get into that.
Okay, but they also want to encourage people to cook with electricity. They are saying, should you exceed 80 units, because you are cooking with electricity, we are cutting the price for you. So it's an incentive.
But you have a small home. You may not get into that.
Okay, but I can also give you a tip.
Okay, please. That's the tip that we want to we are waiting to hear.
Now, okay, what some people are doing is that they realize, they look at it this way. They say, I have an option of buying cheap power if I buy more than 80 units. If I buy 80 to a 150, I'll buy it at a lower cost. So what they do, for example, he has used his 80 units in the month, and he has paid the normal tariff, but the month hasn't yet ended. He says, let me go and buy these units, I'll use them next month.
He buys within the month.
Yes.
Another
before
80.
that month ends, he says, okay, instead of waiting until you enter June to buy the June units, why can't I buy them in May at a lower cost?
Okay.
And then when I reach June, I already have my units.
Then you keep making.
You load them, of course. So for you, you'll have the units on your system, but you'll have bought them at a cheaper cost. That's what some people are doing.
Oh yeah, you keep making.
But that was not the intention of the tariff. But I'm just telling you what people are doing.
Okay. You top up within the month.
Yes. So that you complete your share. Yeah. It's like everybody has an allocation. They say this: you have an allocation. If you buy from 80 to 150 units, you'll buy it cheaper. If you're in May, you'll buy it. But now if you cross over to June, you start afresh. You still have to buy the 80 units. Then you add the
fee.
Then you add. So what you decide to do? Say now the units I will use in June. Let me buy them.
Buy them in May. You buy them in advance.
But I'm telling you what people are doing.
You're an energy auditor, and thanks for that advice. Yeah. There is something you talked about, and it a bit scared me, and that is the fact that we are going electric. The motorcycles, the other day I sat on one, and someone told me that it is more of electric. It uses very little fuel. It so happens even the cars, if you get to some of the new carbons, I mean the vehicles there consume less fuel because they use a bit of electricity. But we are investing a lot of money in Bunyoro to try and get that oil, thinking that will be better. Are we making? Shall we make a kill out of this oil? Okay.
You see anything that when you hear the developed world is shifting away from the petrol and diesel cars. Some of them have set targets that by 2040 or by 2030 they will only have electric cars. For us, it will take us very many years to reach there. So we still have a very, very long way to go. First of all, electricity is not everywhere. So that's the first challenge. We don't have charging infrastructures everywhere. So for some time, we shall still be on our fossil fuels. And even that petroleum products, they can actually be used to make other products beyond fuel. Beyond the fuel.
The petrol and diesel.
Yeah, yes. So we should not lose heart. We know that we shall get there, but we still have a very, very long way to go. So for now, we can see how to get our fuel, our petroleum, and utilize it in whatever way. But it definitely has an implication on the future of petroleum products. That's why feasibility studies now all over the world, they are scaling down on new production. Yeah. The big companies that have been investing in producing fossil fuels are no longer aggressively looking for new fuels. Yeah, because the future is going to change. That cars are going to be driven by electricity, motorcycles are going to be driven by electricity, and not fossil fuels. Now, the electric cars are easier to maintain. They don't have that complicated engine, and so they're much easier to maintain, even an electric motorcycle as well. The costs are still high, but they'll be coming down.
Talking of we are talking of managing our energy costs, and vehicles are part of the energy that we use. When you say that electric cars are easier to maintain, when we get to these mechanics, many times they say motoka ya masanyalaze, it is hard. You're speaking otherwise.
Now, when they say ya masanyalaze, they're saying it has a lot of electronics. It has a computer.
Oh, yeah.
It's a computer which decides how to release fuel. It's like my double cabin. Ya masanyalaze. It's actually
true. Can
give a headache.
You see?
Not everybody can repair it. But that ya masanyalaze actually makes it more efficient. That with efficiency, instead of having human controls, some controls have been they have brought in a lot of electronics to make it more efficient and reduce on fuel consumption. The other thing, as we're talking about fuel consumption, one other message I can give to our listeners and viewers is that whenever you're buying a car, ask yourself, how much fuel does it consume? Or how many kilometers does it run for every kilometer? Many times when somebody is selling you a car and it's very cheap, it's very likely that he's running out from, it has been a gasoline fuel, and he wants to run to a more efficient one. So ask yourself how much it consumes. Now, the new ones, the new cars, they're very, very efficient because they have put in a lot of masanyalas, a lot of efficiency, a lot of technology advancements. When I was in Japan one time, I'd gone there for a training on energy policy. Then I asked the Japanese how they do whether they label their appliances so that people can know how efficient they are. They said, no, we don't do that. For us, we have a policy that any new car that comes on the market must be more efficient than the former one.
Okay.
Any refrigerator that comes on the market must be more efficient than the former one. They call it the top runner program. So for them, whenever you see something, latest model, just know that it's more efficient. And that's how they manage their efficiency. Yeah.
Someone was telling me yesterday, I think this morning, that when she went to the bond to buy a car, she wanted the other traditional one. Because according to her, that is the car that can manage our roads. That is the car that is robust enough to manage our roads and not to be speaking a lot of English with the mechanics here and there. The traditional one, for you telling us to run away from those traditional ones.
No, there is someone. Exactly. He said he's looking for a double cabin. That the other old type. He wants to take it to the farm.
Oh, yeah.
Because it doesn't have a lot of hassle, it doesn't fail, it doesn't have a lot of masanyalas. So definitely, but unfortunately, they are no longer. If you bring in some of those old models, you'll be taxed heavily. You know that more cars which are more than, is it 10 years?
Oh, yeah, 15
years, the tax is very high.
True.
So they're also now very difficult to import. But they were giving us some kind of comfort. Yeah.
Now, going forward, Mr. Baanabe, and this would be among my last questions to you. Going forward, you realize that and I believe you might be having these statistics of the percentages that have been lost in terms of biomass. I think Uganda had a certain forest cover. It has kept reducing. Going forward, what do you think should be the direction, both by the private sector and government, in as far as making sure that our energy levels go down? Because if we are talking of poverty reduction, poverty, in my opinion, should be reduced by making sure that people have enough disposable income, and for them to have enough disposable income, their costs, with energy inclusive, need to be a bit low. What do you think should be the driving conversation, the narrative that drives us into the future concerning energy?
Okay, first of all, we must recognize that there is a problem which has to be addressed. And I've seen that some efforts have been done. A lot of people have been encouraged to invest in tree planting. So we need to do a lot of campaigns, and we've actually invested this in tree planting. And even us as a church or as individuals, as Christians, we should also join this campaign and invest in tree planting. But also government should support people who are in the private sector who want to do tree planting. But at the same time, one way we can try to avoid a high rate of cutting down trees is reduce the amount we use for cooking. So if the technologies we are using can be more efficient, more available, that means we don't have to cut the same number of trees. So it's very important that government invests in supporting the rural communities in going in for more efficient technologies. And my take would be that, especially the institutions, these government schools, prisons, government should lead by example. I would want to see that they're doing that. But also schools that have land should be encouraged to plant trees. Their woodlots. Because where we are going is going to be rather challenging. So should be made a priority by our politicians. Civil society should also join this. Private sector should join this. It should be something that everybody should go into. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baanabe. As we conclude this, I would want to re-echo what he has just said. It should be our own initiative. I mean, we should take it upon ourselves to make sure that we make a contribution towards the conservation of the environment. Not long ago, I was driving, and someone in the car that was ahead of me threw rubbish outside the car. I overtook him. I hooted and overtook him. I put my car in front of him, and I told him to stop. I told him to go back and pick that rubbish that he had thrown, and he had to go back and pick it. Let us take it upon ourselves to make a contribution in as far as protecting our environment and making sure that our country and the globe is much safer than even when we found it. You know, when you look at places like Australia, in the US, sometimes forests are burning. There's a lot of heat.
Yeah.
So just imagine if such kind of things come to the African continent when we are still struggling with a bit of poverty here and there. Who will save us? So it's very important that the conservation of the environment is not only to women, not only to the consultants, not only to government, but we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we make a contribution. Turn away from wood fuel. It is cheaper for you to use EPCs and probably gas and other energy efficient gadgets as opposed to that traditional thinking. And was that traditional thinking. The world is progressing, and surely clean energy is the way to go. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting me. And I want us to become change agents, and I'm available for any free advice. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.
Baanabe. It's been nice to.
Thank you so much. Great.